right, well, good morning, Rocky Hill Life Group facilitators. I need to turn off something over there real quick. Just needed to turn down the baby monitor in case a little guy wakes up. So Christopher Scott here. It is good to see you. Happy Saturday morning to you. I'm continuing the series of book introductions that I've been doing in the 5 books of Moses, the Pentateuch, or the Torah. And then I had one question from one of you all this week that I'll answer at the end of the video. So let's talk about Numbers today. So as we've been talking about the Pentateuch, these 5 books of Moses, we've talked about how each title of the book describes the big idea of the book. So Genesis is about beginning. Genesis means beginnings. Exodus is about exiting, right? They leave Egypt toward the promised land. Leviticus was about law, all the laws that God gives them. And today, when we look at Numbers, Numbers is about counting or numbering the people and the tribes and the clans and all of those things, okay? So that's the book of Numbers. And we've talked about how these 5 books of Moses were probably written between 446 BC to 1406 BC, somewhere in there. And I like to give you those dates because it gives a little context to everything going on if you're familiar with some of the contemporary histories of other, nations at that time in contemporary history. It just gives it more real life if we think about the years that this probably happened. So the Exodus, when the nation of Israel leaves Egypt, likely occurred in 1446, and then Moses dies in about 1406. And so that's when these books were probably written, during those 40 years sometime, okay? So the book of Numbers is an interesting book. It's, like I said, it's about counting and numbering the people. And it's in the book of Numbers in chapters 13 and 14 when Moses sends those 12 spies to go look at the land. And then they come back and 10 spies say, we can't conquer them, but 2 say we can. And then God talks about their unbelief. They don't get to go into the promised land. Moses tells them that. And then they say, no, we're going to take it anyway. Moses says, no, we're not going to be successful. They try to take it anyway and they get their butts kicked. So that's when the Israelites fail to take the land, really is in Numbers 13 and 14. And that's kind of the pivot that the whole book moves around, that chapter 13 really. And then a little later in the book, that's when Moses strikes the rock, Numbers 20, and because he has this unique interaction with God and doesn't consult God, doesn't do what God says, God decides you don't get to enter the promised land. And instead it's going to be Joshua, Moses' assistant. He literally is called Moses' assistant. Joshua ends up getting to take the people into the promised land in the book of Joshua. So that's a brief introduction to Numbers. Not sure if you have any questions about Numbers. It's 35 chapters, I think. Let's see here. 36 chapters. So would love to hear your thoughts on Numbers or questions. If you've read it or questions you might have, you can throw them down there in the comments on this Facebook Live video. Okay. And also, I wanted to answer one of the questions I received this week. Today is May 30th. So one question I received this week is for some of our small groups that meet on campus, on the church campus, if they can start meeting again. And Pastor David had said in his Zoom call that he did last week that if the church campus is closed, we obviously can't allow small groups to meet there at that time. So once we resume in-person services, once we add in-person services to our existing online services. At that point, we might be able to do small groups on the campus again. But at this time, obviously, the campus is closed for in-person services, so we're not able to have small groups meet on campus. And that's something he addressed in his Zoom call last week that he did with the whole church. So hopefully you're able to tune in and watch that. So I'm going to stay here on the Facebook Live for a little bit. If anybody jumps on, you have any questions about your small group or how things are going, or a question about numbers and you want to talk about it, I'll stay on here for a little bit and we can chat a little if you would like. So